Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Coffee with Mare. And today, sporting the lovely Tinkerbell cup, grumpy Tinkerbell, because mornings aren't magical. That's right, folks. I'm a night owl. I have always been a night owl. I've had lots of jobs and different kind of work in my life where I've had to get up early in the mornings. That never converted me to being a morning person. So I tend to record my videos at night at the end of the day. And that seems to be when my thoughts are the clearest and that I've had kind of the whole day to just, you know, go about my business, do what I've got to do. And by the time I come to you, I usually have a really great idea for what the video is going to be about. And just listening to your own body's rhythms and knowing what works best in a situation where you are doing full-time self-care is really important. I, you know, I do have to get up in the morning so that I can get my daughter off to school. And that is totally cool. I tend to compensate for having to be, for being up in the morning with either having a good nap during the day if I need it, and going to bed early is a challenge. My brain usually switches on somewhere around 11, 12 in the morning, and then it wants to keep going until about 11 or 12 at night, if not later than that. And if I'm dealing with any kind of pain, sometimes that can put my bedtime even further than that. So daytime naps are kind of a savior for me. Now, not everyone has the luxury of having a daytime nap. I highly recommend it. I really think that in North America, we've got it backwards. There are so many countries that still shut down in the middle of the day for various reasons, where they have a few hours at midday where people will go home, they have family time, or they have lunch at home and they have a little rest, and then they come back to work and feel refreshed. They do tend to work a little bit later in the day, but it works when it's a part of the culture. In our culture, it's go, 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 go until you're ready to drop. And that, my friends, is not sustainable. I've talked about that a little bit before. Yesterday in the self-care video in particular, talked about what my life was like when I was working and consulting and having my own businesses. And, it's very different when you can regulate and control your own schedule than when you have someone else dictating terms to you. And I've tried to position myself in my career where I can make my own hours. And after being on this chronic illness journey and being at home and taking care of myself, I have fully realized that if I don't have control of my schedule, my life does not work. This was actually some really great advice that I got from the chronic fatigue specialist here in Calgary when I went to see her on the road to being diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And this particular doctor, also has chronic illnesses, but she still runs her practice. And she's one of the only people in Calgary who specializes in chronic fatigue and helping people who have Lyme disease as well. Wonderful, wonderful person, very insightful. And she said to me one day, if I didn't have 100% control of my schedule, she says, there's no way that I would be able to work. There's no way that I would be able to live. And that comment came after I had kind of reflected back to her that, I don't know if I want to state it as a control thing, because control has taken on such a negative context. A lot of people hear that word and immediately it's like, same thing. I kind of get not triggered, but there's something in me that just kind of goes, okay, control. Don't want to be too controlling, but I don't want to lose control of my life. And it's usually in places where I felt like I'd lost control of my life, where I wasn't living my life anymore. It was somebody else who was calling the shots in my life. That's when things go horribly, horribly wrong. And my health is usually the first thing to go in those kinds of situations. So moving forward, I know that I am building this business that I'm starting with workability in mind. The schedules that I create have to be workable. So that includes interviews for guests that I'm bringing on for a different segment that we're going to be doing. And that also includes any retreats or workshops that I'm going to be doing. What happens with a lot of people that are chronically ill is that last minute activities, and you know what, I'll just speak for myself, but I can say, just because I have been a part of this community for a very long time, that I'm not the only one. But for me personally, if I can plan ahead for things, let's say, I'm given a day or two's notice on needing to be somewhere at a specific time, whether that is for face painting or if I'm doing some work as a background actor, I can totally plan for that. I can plan my life so that I get the rest that I need before and after. Having a day that goes off the rails for me kind of looks like, okay, I had my activity planned. I knew what it was that I wanted to accomplish today, and maybe I was still feeling a little bit energetic at the end of it. So I decided, okay, well, maybe now's a good time to go grocery shopping. And halfway through the grocery shop, I realized, oh my God, I should be in bed. I should have gone home. So I have to be very careful, because even after years of living in this way, I still forget how quickly my energy can just vaporize. And I've had lots of friends see it. I've gone over for visits, whether it's coffee or a glass of wine or for dinner, and I might look at them and say, I need to lie down right now. I have to get horizontal. And of course, they're just like, yeah, pick a spot, lie down, be comfortable. For people who haven't spent a lot of time with me, they might find that particularly odd. But the ones who've been in my life for a while, they're just like, it's okay. She's just having a nap. She'll be fine. So listening to your own body's rhythms and knowing when you feel the most energized in your day and trying to be productive in that period of time, that's something that's more of a formula for success for me. And also why, I've carved out this time. Here I live in Calgary in Canada. It's about 9 o'clock at night, between 9 and 9:30, usually when I start filming. On the weeks when my daughter's home, she's already in bed, and I can take the time that I need to gather my thoughts and to get ready so that I can have a conversation with all of you. And it's important that it was important that become a routine with me. And yeah, I've shot some videos at different times of day, but I do find that the evening videos, like it's kind of my routine that I have now. So creating a routine for yourself that works in your life is a great way to just kind of have a bit more control in your schedule. So, and we talked about some self-care habits, I guess, that you can develop. We talked about that yesterday, but it's also important that the things you want to do for your self-care, that you carve out that time and that you try and put a little bit of time aside for yourself every day. And you have to plan ahead for that. If you are just waiting to be dead tired, you're ready to drop, and you're like, I just need to go to bed, that's not going to give you the success you need for implementing self-care tactics or strategies. So I suggest that you set an alarm on your phone, whether that's, for after the kids go to bed, if you've got kids, or after you get home from work and before you do other stuff, or if you are a morning person and you prefer to get up at 5 a.m. and have a little meditation time, whatever is going to work for you. I'm not going to tell you where that needs to fit in. You have to decide that. And just by looking at how your day runs normally, you can probably find 5 to 15 minutes to devote to yourself on a daily basis if you start scheduling that time. And that's also setting expectations. And that's part of where your mind has to be involved when you're implementing self-care. Because if you're not going to share with the people who live with you and that are in your life that you are trying to do something good for yourself so that they can support you in that, then, having an expectation of people just leaving you alone is a little unrealistic. But if you do say to your partner or your roommates or whoever it is that you live with, if you don't live by yourself, that, what, every day at this time of day, I am trying and I'm planning on taking a little bit of time for myself, just a few minutes. It's really important for my sanity. Can you support me with that? Can you help me with that? And the help would come in the form of, let's say if you have kids and the kids just, if you're planning on having self-care time while your kids are awake or if they're at home, then you might need your partner to kind of run interference for you for a few minutes. And that's something that you can easily reciprocate and maybe help your partner implement some self-care as well and say, okay, so this is my time that I have. Now, you get your time. Maybe you guys want to alternate days on who goes first. But having the support of the people in your family is what's going to help. If you find that you really just cannot get a moment alone when you are at home and your family is home, it might look like something like going for a walk at lunch. Take a minute to go for a walk, go outside, get some sunshine on your face. And it doesn't have to be a long walk, but just getting a little bit of fresh air, being out in nature. And yes, I used to work downtown and there's not a whole lot of nature to be found when you're in the city, but there's always something that you can find, a tree, a park bench. If they do have green spaces or parks where you live in the inner city areas, then take advantage of those things. Do something nice for yourself, but make it work into your schedule so that it's like your routine. It's like developing a habit of going to the gym. It's developing a habit of, anything else, trying to eat meals at regular times of day. So all of these things, when you have a little bit more routine, if it's possible for you, you'll start having a sense of, I can look forward to that, like 15 minutes, half an hour, or even if it's just 5 minutes alone that you can carve out for yourself and just call it yours. When I was working a lot, I found that it was usually before bedtime that I would lie in bed and I would meditate for a good 5 to 15 minutes. And that's all I needed to just calm my mind. And it worked best for me before I would go to sleep because then I would wake up feeling a little bit better. My mind would be easy going to bed as opposed to being fraught with all of the day's events and what do I have to do tomorrow, and there's just not enough time for everything. Stop telling yourself that there's not enough time also. People have the habit, and I used to have this habit of just saying, oh, I'm really busy. How are you doing? I'm busy. I'm really busy. Life is good, but I'm busy. The more you tell yourself you're busy, the more you're going to feel like, oh my God, I'm so busy. Can I handle doing all of this? So instead of saying you're busy, really think about the answer. But when somebody asks you how you're doing, instead of just saying I'm really busy, or if they ask you to go out for a coffee and it's a friend that you haven't seen for a really long time, I try my very best to carve out time for my friends so that we can sit down and catch up properly and have conversations about life and the things that are important to us. So I suggest you do the same. Try and reach out. You need something outside of your day to day to kind of break it up a little bit. For people who kind of get this, the objections start fading very quickly. The I don't have time for that. There's no way I can manage. I already have too much to do. There aren't enough hours in the day. I really totally empathize with you if that's where you're feeling. But you have to take responsibility for this. If you are not in control of what's going on in your life and what's going on in your mind in particular, who's running the show? And are you going to start feeling a little bit helpless or a lot helpless if you're not running the show? Probably. So the best way to get a handle on that is to stop telling yourself that you're just so busy. Most people spend their days with their cell phones in their hands, either with business or because they're communicating with loved ones. And sometimes it's really worth the effort to just put the phone down and walk away. Cell phones are a whole other ball of wax. I have a love-hate relationship with my cell phone because I love the fact that it helps to keep me organized, and it pretty much tells me what time I have to be places because I set multiple alarms throughout the day, and that's how I make my life work so that I remember exactly where I need to be, and if I have to drive there, how much time is it going to take. And I love Google Calendar for that too, because I can actually plan the travel time, and it'll give that to me based on my location and where I need to go. And it shifts according to what time of day. So that's something that's absolutely brilliant. So if you're not putting locations in your calendar appointments, I strongly suggest that you do, because knowing that, okay, so if I go at 10 o'clock at night, it might only take me 20 minutes. If I go at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to take me 45 minutes. If I'm expecting a 45-minute drive, then it's not stressful when it does happen, when I know that it would usually only take me 20 minutes to get there. So set yourself up for success with little tiny steps to regain control over even just the smallest things in your life. Control is not all bad. Control being exerted over others is a totally different thing than you owning your life and what's happening in your life. So if you also have kind of negative connotations around the word control, start thinking about where that came from. Where did that negative relationship with control come from? Is it because you felt someone was exerting their control over you and that was something you were allowing in your life at the time? Maybe you just need to forgive yourself for that. Again, being kind and compassionate with yourself and honoring who you are now as opposed to the person who was being controlled by someone else. I don't want to get too much more into that because that's also on a very personal level for a lot of different individuals, that they've felt that other people were either trying to control them or had successfully gained control over their lives, and they felt like they just had no say in it anymore. If that was you, my heart goes out to you. I totally understand how that can feel and what that can be like, but I don't know how you felt, because we're all unique individuals, and what we feel in a moment is probably not the same as what someone else would feel in that same circumstance. So you have to appreciate that it's your journey, and what you were feeling, you had the right to have those feelings. But you do have to take charge of those emotions at some point and put them behind you if it was something that was really highly interfering in your life, maybe you do need to forgive yourself for allowing that to happen, or, for people to come into your life and I don't know if it's talking you into stuff or if it's just, feeling pressure from others to do their will as opposed to what yours is. So it's an interesting thing to evaluate. Your relationship with control and what that looks like is definitely something worth exploring on an individual basis. So I kind of think that that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So, yeah, control's not always a bad thing. And I know that regaining control of my life and being able to run it on my own terms, that has helped with my convalescence and with being at home and being ill. And that also has a lot to do with the people that I have in my life, that if I say, I can't do that today, or I'm having a really bad day and it looks like it might extend for a couple of days, like let's say if it's a migraine cycle, the people who know and love you, if you say, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, even though it's the next day or 2 days away, and can we just touch base a little bit closer too? So leave the door open for that to still be possible to go and do whatever it was you had planned on doing, but also give yourself an opportunity to assess how you're feeling at that time, and then not to feel that negative pressure to do something because you feel like someone expects it of you. If you've already set the expectation that you may not be well enough to make it to coffee, dinner, birthday party, volunteering, whatever it is, then at least those people, if they need to make another plan, so if they need to backfill, if it's a volunteer thing, if it's, you're planning a birthday party or someone's planning a birthday party and you just don't think that you can go, you know what, the party's probably still going to go on and your friends love you and they want you to be well and would probably be okay with you not going. If you've got people that are really not getting it and not understanding, it's not up to you to convince them that they should be any particular way. They should be more accepting. They should be more understanding. That's the language of guilt, and that's another way of kind of imposing control on someone else. You should be more supportive. If that person isn't built that way and that they don't have a supportive bone in their body, no matter how much you ask them or tell them that they should be more supportive, they will not change. Try bringing that in for a second and think about how you relate to other people and when you're setting expectations and whether you allow other people to set expectations of you that may not be realistic. So it's kind of a lot to think about. A little bit of a heavier subject today, but still an important one nonetheless. I'm very glad that doctor had that conversation with me about control and about regaining a sense of control over my life, because it was a game changer. I started making choices that were right for me in the situation that I was in, not what was right for every other person that was in my life at that point, what was actually right for me, because I needed to start taking care of myself because I hadn't been. I'd been too busy trying to take care of everybody else. And if you don't take care of yourself, how can you truly help to care for another being? You can start putting yourself out there and just constantly giving your energy to others. That often breeds resentment and contempt. And do you want to feel resentment and contempt towards your loved ones? My guess is probably not. So start thinking about how you relate to other people and what the expectations are. And if you're expecting things that have never actually been said or stated clearly with another person, so that they know what it is that you are expecting out of a certain situation. Imposing expectations on other people. I mean, we're not talking about work now. We're kind of talking about like personal relationships and interpersonal. Without setting an expectation with somebody, you're then imposing it upon them. That's kind of not a good form of control, or even that can turn to manipulation. So it's better to have the conversation with someone and just be clear so that you know what to expect from them and what they can expect from you, as opposed to telling each other what you expect from another person. So just have the conversation. Anyhow, I'm really glad that you joined me for today's segment. And if you liked today's video, please give us a big thumbs up. I would so appreciate it. Oh, I really need some water. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when the next video is going to be landing on YouTube. So another wonderful day full of gratitude for me, even though it was really tired, but I'm grateful for all of you and I hope you have a great night. So this is SickMom, checking out.